we go. North Korea this week now marking 5 years under the regime of Kim Jong-un. And watch that story as we learn that country might be on the verge of a new frontier in its nuclear and weapons programs. We're getting reports the North is prepping for another nuclear test. Will that happen? We don't know. But Japan's prime minister is saying it now be capable of launching missiles tipped with deadly sarin gas. Senior Foreign Affairs correspondent Greg Palcott live in Pyongyang with the latest there. Greg.
Bill, welcome back to Pyongyang, where tensions between the United States and North Korea over its nuclear and missile programs are real, and the city appears to be really defiant. Take a look at what we saw. You're looking at thousands of citizens of Pyongyang coming out in a very well-organized, orchestrated event, opening up a new neighborhood here in the capital. The idea by the regime is to give the semblance of order, give the semblance of a functioning city. Despite the sanctions, despite the problems over the nuclear and missile crisis, they say they are moving forward. They say they are functioning, and this is what we're seeing. Now, just a few hundred yards from where we were standing, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, believe it or not, was cutting a ribbon on that government-backed building project. Officials calling it a sign of defiance against the United States and its backing of sanctions. This event is in advance of Saturday's anniversary of the birth date of Kim Jong-un's grandfather, the founder of North Korea, Kim Il-sung. Now, there are new reports of possible preps of a detonation of another nuclear device by North Korea. No confirmation of that. Also, we have seen missiles launched around the state in the past. All we can say is that the talk here is very tough. Officials telling us they will never give up their banned nukes or missiles and would be more than happy to respond in kind if the United States chose to stage a preemptive strike. As for the other reports in the past couple of days, the North Korean ally China is cooperating more with the U.S., that it's taking a harder line with North Korea. Well, officials again today point to projects like the one we saw unveiled today. They claim that shows they don't need anyone. Here's what one resident told us about the United States and sanctions.
미국에서 we don't really care, and we lived under the sanction of U.S. since the very first day, so we don't really give a damn.
We must note that that quote and much of the work that we do here has government officials somewhat nearby. But there is so much to see, there is so much to hear, and it has been 5 years since we have been here. There's a lot more to tell. Stay tuned.
Good to have you on the ground there, Greg. Greg Palcott live in Pyongyang, the North Korean capital city. It's unclear to me if the North has the ability to send a missile to Japan. 800 to 1,000 miles, which is what you would need to travel there. Would you ask Jack Keane about that next hour and find out?
What's happening in North Korea today, and why do analysts think that there may be a 6th nuclear test?
Well, there's been a lot of talk this week, Don, leading up to this holiday, the Day of the Sun. You were talking the birthday of North Korea's founding father, Kim Il-sung. And around these major holidays, North Korea has in the past chosen to display its military might through nuclear power. In fact, it was 5 years ago, just 2 days before this holiday, that North Korea attempted to launch a satellite into orbit. We have not, as far as I know, seen a nuclear test here in North Korea yet today. And I've been without my phone for more than 5 hours now, so you probably know what's happening up to date better than I do. We have to surrender our phones anytime we enter an event where North Korea's Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un is in attendance. But the military parade is just about to get underway, and I want you to take a look at this because we often see the images of the tanks rolling by. This is something that we don't always see, the moments before the parade begins, when you have these North Korean soldiers, and if you zoom in on their faces, you can see these are very young faces. These are teenagers. They served for 10 years in many cases, starting from age 17 or so up until their late 20s. They don't get married. They don't have, a social life like you might think in the United States. Their lives are committed to defending this country in the event of a military confrontation. And just a few moments ago, these soldiers were chanting, you know, "We will die for you, our supreme leader, our supreme commander, Kim Jong-un." So this is obviously, this is a militarized country. They have a standing army of more than 1 million. And what we expect to see in the coming hours during this parade is perhaps a display of some of the new missiles and other weapons that North Korea has been developing. In the last year alone, they have perfected a submarine-launched ballistic missile, so they could fire it from a submarine. They have a land-based ballistic missile that they can launch from a mobile launcher. These are solid fuel missiles. They fuel them up instead of with liquid fuel. It's almost like an explosive jelly, and it allows these missiles to sit in hiding and be rolled out and launched relatively quickly. So we could still see a missile launch today as some sort of a show of force. But the sense I'm getting from North Korean officials in regards to a nuclear test, if it was going to happen today, it is believed that it would have probably happened by now. Historically, North Korea has tended to conduct those tests in the morning hours, often around 9:30 in the morning. It's now just after 10:30 in the morning here. But Don, just because they haven't done this nuclear test today doesn't mean it's not going to happen. North Korea has it written into their constitution that they are a nuclear power. And analysts looking at satellite images from just a couple of days ago believe that the nuclear test site at Punggye-ri is primed and ready for a test really at any moment. So could they do it when Vice President Pence visits the region in a few days? Could they choose another occasion? It's really not a matter of if, but probably when it comes to North Korea. And what we don't know, Don, is how the Trump administration is going to respond with that huge group of warships, the USS Carl Vinson Carrier Strike Group, now in the waters, in place off the Korean Peninsula, equipped with a lot of missiles and a lot of, a lot of weapons that are an attempt to try to deter North Korea from doing this.
Let's talk a little bit more. And again, I can't stress how extraordinary it is that you're live there and what we're seeing behind you. And you said that we may have seen it if it was going to happen by now, but again, we don't know. Well, there's been an escalating war of words between Washington and Pyongyang. How much of this is real? Do we know? And how much of it is saber rattling?
Well, we're used to hearing from North Korea threats of nuclear annihilation of the United States. That's something that North Korea has said repeatedly over the years. If they're provoked, that they'll retaliate and there will be no survivors. And that's the kind of rhetoric that we're still hearing from North Korea now. But what's new in this dynamic here, Don, is President Trump. And the fact that President Trump is tweeting in real time his thoughts about North Korea, his thoughts about China and the United States trying to rein in the North Korean nuclear threat. And so we don't know how North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un is going to respond to these tweets that they might find very provocative. And then, of course, not to mention the fact that this huge conventional weapon, this Moab, the mother of all bombs, launched on ISIS tunnels in Afghanistan, North Korea conducts its nuclear tests underground. And so you wonder, is this some sort of a veiled threat? And if so, how is North Korea and its leader going to respond to that?
Tonight, all eyes on North Korea. Kim Jong-un on stage, applauded by thousands on the eve of an anniversary often used for provocative military action. The birthday of the regime's founder, his grandfather. U.S. officials say he may mark the holiday with a missile test, or worse, his 6th nuclear test. Today, a top aide to the North Korean dictator lashing out at the U.S. Accusing President Trump of pushing the world toward nuclear war by tweeting Tuesday North Korea was looking for trouble, all creating big risks, says a former defense secretary and CIA director.
There is the potential when you challenge a country that has nuclear weapons and that has a very unpredictable leader. Those kinds of threats could lead to a provocative act that could cause a miscalculation and send us into a nuclear war.
U.S. intelligence officials tonight focusing on this North Korean nuclear complex. A new estimate tonight says they already have between 13 and 30 nuclear bombs, plus an arsenal of missiles, not yet able to reach the U.S. mainland, but a dire threat to Japan and South Korea, and 78,000 American troops in the region. President Trump this week asked if the use of the mother of all bombs in Afghanistan was meant to send a message to Kim Jong-un.
I don't know if this sends a message. It doesn't make any difference if it does or not. North Korea is a problem. The problem will be taken care of.
But how? 2 U.S. destroyers equipped with cruise missiles are within 300 miles off the coast of Japan. Japan and South Korea have Patriot anti-missile defenses. The U.S. could try to disrupt a North Korea launch with a cyber attack. The best option, getting China to pressure North Korea, as President Trump is doing with China's President Xi. China's foreign minister tonight warning both the U.S. and North Korea to stop provoking and threatening each other.
The hope is that China, and there's some indication of this, is willing to take a tougher stand here.
If there is a nuclear test, the likely U.S. response will be a tough statement and perhaps a show of force. But if there were a missile launch aimed at the U.S., that would be different. The U.S. would take military action and try to shoot it down.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.
Concern growing that North Korea may be even closer to launching another nuclear test than we thought, as Pyongyang blames President Trump's, quote, aggressive tweets for the rising tension in that region. Senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palcott is live today for us from Pyongyang.
Hi, Shannon. War talk coming from North Korea on the eve of maybe the most dangerous day of the year here. North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, his deputy foreign minister, Han Sung-ryul, speaking to Associated Press today and telling them what we have been hearing from North Korean officials here for the past couple of days, that they will confront what they call reckless U.S. military maneuvers with a preemptive strike using a powerful nuclear deterrent. Here's a bit more of what he had to say.
We are taking into account the most aggressive and dangerous option that the U.S. might come up with. And we also have our options, our countermeasures ready in our hands, which means we'll go to war if they choose.
As the people of Pyongyang get ready to mark the anniversary of the birthday of the founder, Kim Il-sung, there have also been reports that they might detonate a nuclear device at this time. That official today said the government would do that at the time and the place of their choosing. Finally, as we watch North Korean military officers pay their respects at the birthplace of the founder just outside of Pyongyang, we also heard that official talk about President Trump, saying that he was the one making trouble these days with his administration's vicious and aggressive provocations. Listen to some provocative words that we heard from a North Korean colonel today.
Even though the U.S. is trying to invade our country or attack it, they won't do it. Because we have such a major strength, if they do it, we would smash their heads, we would blow them up.
By the way, at one point, President Trump has suggested that he could share a hamburger with Kim Jong-un to work things out. Well, we heard from that official on this point, too, and he said no way, that it was just lip service. Fighting words. Back to you.
That would be very interesting. All right, Greg Palcott, thank you very much.
So he's not saying whether the bombing in Afghanistan is meant to send a signal to North Korea's Kim Jong-un.
I don't know if this sends a message. It doesn't make any difference if it does or not. North Korea is a problem. The problem will be taken care of.
North Korea is putting on a happy face in the face of increasing pressure by the U.S. over the North's weapons program. The communist nation took the rare step today of having Western journalists on hand for a public ceremony. Senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palcott reports tonight from Pyongyang.
North Korean defiance was on display on the streets of Pyongyang today. Amid new reports, the North might be preparing another nuclear test or missile launch to mark the anniversary Saturday of the birth of the country's founder, Kim Il-sung, the grandfather of current leader Kim Jong-un. The regime organized a mass turnout of residents and soldiers to mark the opening of a new government-backed building complex in the capital. North Korean Prime Minister Park Bong-joo said, among other things, the project was a sign North Korea would not be cowed by America and international sanctions, adding the achievement had the symbolic impact of 100 thermonuclear bombs. This event in Pyongyang symbolic of the leadership of Kim Jong-un in addition to keeping his foreign foes at bay with his nuclear and missile program and his internal enemies down through a variety of ways. He's trying to keep the public to some degree satisfied with at least limited economic growth and reforms. Kim Jong-un, in fact, happily officiated at the ribbon cutting for the new complex, but he no doubt has other things on his mind, like President Trump and his talk about North Korean ally China helping in the dispute. as well as that still possible U.S. military option and reports of the Trump administration planning more sanctions. One resident angrily rejected those.
We don't really care, and we lived under the sanction of U.S. since the very first day, so we don't really give it a damn.
And as for that new building complex, despite the fact that no one lives or works there yet, and the shops look decidedly unshopped, this addition to the showcase capital seemed to please at least one person.
Our future looks bright, thanks to Kim Jong-un.
The great love of the respect.
By the way, those last two comments came with a government official nearby. What do North Korean officials think of the tough talk coming from the Trump administration? Well, to paraphrase one, he told me, bring it on. Greg
Palcott, live in the early morning in Pyongyang. Greg, thank you.